After 212 days of repairs, adjustments, construction, investigation, and testing, SpaceX was prepared to launch the Starship once again on November 18th. The second test flight of the world's largest rocket proved to be considerably more successful than its initial attempt. Yet the Saturday launch experienced both remarkable achievements and disappointing setbacks. Welcome to Spaceverse, your go-to destination for thrilling updates and in-depth explorations into the realms of aerospace industry and interstellar exploration. Join us every week for a captivating blend of long-form essays and news updates, providing you with the latest insights and discoveries from the cosmos. Let's start. To provide context for those who missed the live broadcast, the Starbase Boca Chica, Texas team initiated the fueling process at around 8 o'clock at the morning, Eastern Standard Time on November 18th. The procedure proceeded smoothly, with a planned hold at T-minus 40 seconds for a final check before resuming. At T-minus 5 seconds, the deluge system activated, releasing thousands of gallons of water in preparation for engine ignition, which occurred a few seconds later. At T-plus 4 seconds, the liftoff took place, with Starship ascending effortlessly into the air. There was no unusual drifting or slow climb, just a consistent acceleration as it departed from the launch pad. At T-plus 1 minute and 12 seconds, Starship had reached such high speeds that it had already encountered max Q, the point where the vehicle experiences the maximum dynamic pressure for the entire flight. By T-plus 2 minutes and 40 seconds, most of the booster engines began a gradual shutdown, not simultaneously. If observed closely, the engines can be seen shutting down in small groups. Nearly simultaneously, Starship's engines activated, utilizing the flame diverter vents on Booster 9's top to execute a hot staging maneuver, separating the two vehicles without losing momentum. At T-plus 2 minutes and 50 seconds, the two stages are detached, and Booster 9 initiates its flip for the boost backburn maneuver intended to return it to the Gulf of Mexico. However, the flip is successful, the trajectory appears stable, yet several engines fail to ignite, leading to a small explosion at the rear of the booster at T-plus 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Consequently, the flight termination system on Booster 9 is activated, causing it to disintegrate. Meanwhile, Ship 25 continues to perform well, maintaining a flawless flight for almost 5 more minutes. It's only around T-plus 8 minutes that vapor puffs are observed, signaling a potential issue, and telemetry is lost. Later confirmation reveals that the flight termination system was activated for Ship 25 around this time, resulting in the loss of both vehicles. Despite this, with a flight duration nearly twice that of the previous test on April 20th and the successful completion of all primary test objectives, SpaceX staff and ground observers have reasons to celebrate. However successful, there's always room for improvement in spaceflight. Therefore, as we look ahead to the future, let's examine the aftermath of IFT-2, starting with the most pressing question. How did the launch pad fare? In short, the pad performed exceptionally well. In more detail, both the launch pad and hardware emerged as the true stars of this flight. The condition of the Starbase pad gained notoriety following Starship's initial test flight in April. Without a flame diverter or any substantial measures to mitigate the tremendous overpressure and explosive force from the rocket's first stage, the result was a massive crater in the Boca Chica sand. This nearly obliterated the OLM and caused severe damage to essential components of the launch tower and tank farm. This damage raised significant concerns in the FAA mishap investigation, as debris was scattered over considerable distances from the launch site. SpaceX had to work diligently to install their planned flame diverter system after filling in the initial crater. The now famous water-cooled steel plate system was the chosen solution, resembling a reverse showerhead that pumps thousands of gallons of water upward and away from the rocket's underside. The concept was for the water to cool the steel plate beneath the engines of the first stage booster and also mitigate some of the noise and pressure generated by the initial liftoff thrust. Remarkably, the system worked perfectly. The moment the clock reached T-plus 5 seconds and the deluge system activated, it became evident that this launch would be distinct. Similar to recent static fire tests, the water effectively absorbed the Raptor engine array's power, transforming into steam and presenting a striking display of pulsating water vapor clouds instead of dusty clouds laden with perilous flying concrete fragments. Remarkably, technicians were on the pad within just 3 hours of waiting, and less than a day later, Elon Musk stood on the pad, offering a close-up view of the nearly pristine site. Elon shared on X, "Just inspected the Starship launch pad, and it is in great condition. No refurbishment needed for the water-cooled steel plate for the next launch." This marks a remarkable departure from the stage on April 20th, and the engineers behind this achievement rightfully deserve applause. However, it doesn't imply that there was no damage, as evident in clear images of dangling cables from the chopsticks and a battered quick disconnect. This underscores that even in a flawless launch, hardware can sustain damage. Yet, such issues are reparable, and it's a recognized hazard that launches inevitably cause some damage to the launch apparatus when utilizing explosions to propel vehicles into space. Now let's break down the flight itself, examining both the positive and negative aspects. It's important to stay tuned for both perspectives. To start with the challenges, there weren't many, while there were 2 activations of the flight termination systems. Surprisingly, this is a positive aspect of the test, and I'll elaborate on why shortly. During liftoff, observers noted a couple of pieces resembling corrugated metal flying around near the base of the OLM. It could have been anything not securely fastened, indicating a need for a more thorough inspection of the site for such materials before future launches. The other issues in this launch were mostly related to the maneuvers attempted by both sections of the rocket immediately after stage separation. Initially, the booster tried to execute its flip for the boost backburn, and the flip itself looked impressive with everything seemingly aligned well. However, there was a small explosion at the engines during the restart attempt, indicating some internal resistance to the maneuver. While the booster might have managed to return to the Gulf of Mexico with just a few engines, too many failed to ignite, likely causing an imbalance in thrust. Consequently, the booster deviated significantly from its intended course, prompting the cautious activation of the flight termination system, a decision that was undoubtedly the correct one. Meanwhile, Starship was last observed accelerating along what appeared to be a flawless trajectory. Everything proceeded smoothly until an abrupt change occurred. There were brief puffs of air, and the engines unexpectedly cut out seconds before the planned moment by the SpaceX team. Initially, it seemed like a simple loss of telemetry, suggesting that the ship was likely still gliding towards Hawaii. Unfortunately, it was later confirmed that the flight termination system had been activated for Starship as well, as of the recording time. It remains somewhat unclear whether the FTS activated automatically or if SpaceX manually initiated it. However, a couple of likely causes have been suggested. Observers have noted that Starship might have deviated slightly off course, posing a potential risk to the local population. Another possibility is that the welds on Ship 25 didn't hold up, resulting in the ship breaking open and triggering the FTS. Ship 25 had undergone extensive testing, and issues with its welds and heat tiles had been addressed up until days before the launch. Whatever the reason, Ship 25 did not break up cleanly, and reports indicated that the nose cone and flaps survived the initial explosion, although they likely burned up during the descent. This poses a potential hazard that the team will need to address in later ship variants. However, this was the only drawback of the launch, so let's focus on the positive aspects. Most importantly, every primary objective for this flight was successfully achieved. Starship lifted off from the launch pad in a controlled manner, avoiding any unintended implications for the Boring Company's drilling techniques. Furthermore, the first stage booster not only maintained an optimal number of active engines during ascent, but all 33 engines in its array remained active, gimbaled, and shut down properly. This remarkable achievement is likely attributable to the new electronic thrust vector control system in Booster 9, along with upgrades to the engine bay plumbing aimed at preventing leaks from escalating into fires. The TV control system played a crucial role in enabling the rocket to effortlessly maintain its trajectory throughout this flight. Every gimbaling engine performed flawlessly, notably evident right after stage separation, when the 3 gimbaling center engines on Ship 25 quickly aligned once Booster 9 moved out of the line of fire. Regarding separation, the hot staging maneuver incorporated into this launch successfully achieved its intended purpose. The smooth separation stood as the primary objective of this flight and marked the last flawless element in the entire exercise. It was rewarding to witness the fruitful outcomes of extensive testing with avionics and the adjustments made to some launch hardware to accommodate the new height of the rocket. Almost and quite understandably, the FAA will need to conduct a mishap investigation, and they have already announced their intention to do so. While we understand any dissatisfaction expressed, this falls within the scope of their responsibilities. In fact, they have no choice in the matter. The activation of the Flight Termination System, or FTS, leading to the destruction of Booster 9, obligates the FAA to undertake an investigation. The positive aspect is that, with no reported damage to property, the environment, or any danger to individuals, this investigation should be considerably quicker than the previous one. Additionally, there likely won't be significant changes to the mission hardware this time, eliminating the need for an environmental review from the Fisheries and Wildlife team. Nevertheless, the likelihood of another launch occurring this year is extremely slim. Elon Musk all but confirmed this in a post on X, stating, "Starship Flight 3 hardware should be ready to fly in 3 to 4 weeks. Realistically, even if Starship had achieved both of its secondary goals, another launch before the year-end was improbable. The time constraints for reconfiguring the next set of vehicles, planning a flight, and launching before the holidays were considerable. While it would have been intriguing to see SpaceX attempt it, the window for such a feat appears to be closing." Regarding the anticipated developments for the next test flight, SpaceX is known for conducting incremental tests, allowing them to focus on addressing emerging issues. It's likely that the company will attempt the next launch with the same mission profile, emphasizing the successful execution of the boost backflip and the glide to Hawaii. Having demonstrated the capability to launch the significant rocket and initiate its journey to orbit, SpaceX now needs to validate these technical abilities before progressing to the next phase. This entails additional hardware testing. Ship 25 and Starship, in general, have encountered challenges in retaining their heat shield tiles. While a few tiles falling off during launch may not be a major concern individually, the cumulative effect can be significant. SpaceX needs to refine the adhesive and attachment procedures, akin to the approach NASA adopted with the older shuttles. The next vehicles in line are expected to be Ship 28 and Booster 10, with Ship 28 showcasing substantial technological advancements over Ship 25. Although details about Booster 10 remain somewhat elusive, it's probable that minor tweaks will be made to the Super Heavy first stage, specifically addressing the challenges encountered during the flip maneuver by Booster 9. In terms of a more realistic time frame for the next test launch, SpaceX is eager to proceed with another one, evidenced by the several test boosters and Starships prepared for flights. However, the feasibility of a winter launch is uncertain. It's conceivable that a launch toward the end of January or sometime in February could take place. The FAA, under pressure to expedite processes, may play a role in expediting approvals. SpaceX is known for swift preparations, leaving no time wasted in readying the next vehicle for flight. At the very least, a flight in March seems highly probable if it hasn't occurred before then. In the ongoing development of SpaceX's Starship, doubts have emerged regarding its preparedness for the 2025 Artemis 3 mission. The statement posits that the spacecraft may face challenges in completing a sufficient number of test flights within the specified timeframe. This skepticism is rooted in the extensive workload associated with the testing process, encompassing mishap investigations and necessary hardware configurations. The implication is that these complexities could potentially hinder Starship's ability to meet the stringent safety and reliability standards set by NASA. Notably, NASA has mandated a minimum of 60 test launches before considering crewed missions on Starship, reflecting a cautious approach to ensure mission success and crew safety. Interestingly, this safety requirement appears more lenient than the preference expressed by SpaceX President and COO Gwynne Shotwell. The underlying concern is that the demanding testing and reconfiguration processes might prove too intricate to be accomplished within the designated time frame, raising questions about the feasibility of Starship's involvement in the Artemis 3 mission as originally planned. Regarding the Dear Moon commercial Starship mission, initially scheduled for a 2023 launch with a crew of artists on an orbital trajectory around the Moon, Shotwell has expressed the desire for at least 100 launches before entrusting the vehicle with an in-train crew. This cautious approach is understandable, given safety considerations. Even if SpaceX manages to swiftly complete all the testing targets required by NASA, encompassing the orbital, refueling, moon travel, and landing tests, along with various hardware tests for the human landing system variant of Starship, achieving this within a 2-year time frame seems implausible. However, with the flexibility in the Artemis schedule, delays for the additional time Starship may require won't pose significant issues. Similar to the testing trajectory of the Falcon 9, Starship is expected to become increasingly consistent with each flight. The upcoming year holds promise for exciting developments in this new space race. And that's it. Thank you for joining us on this cosmic journey at Spaceverse. For more updates on everything related to the aerospace industry and interstellar exploration, join us here every week. If you enjoyed this video, giving it a thumbs up greatly supports us. Subscribe to the Spaceverse for more videos like this.